What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin.
My name is Kevin.
And we're here to talk about Star Wars. Today, in particular, we're here to talk about Space Dive. 2 words, Space Dive. Kevin, how about we just dive straight into what Space Dive is?
It's such a big question, but I'll do my best. So Space Dive is a fan-run, immersive, pop-up Star Wars inspired event that happens in and around May the 4th each year for the last decade.
Okay.
That's the short.
Okay. Yeah. Man, I went for the first time last year. And our mutual friend, Don Kuhn, just kept talking about it and like hyping it up. And I was like, okay, all right. Okay. And last year was my first one, and I went all out and I wore my Chewbacca. I shortly got my Chewbacca approved, I think like a month prior. So I was able to wear it at Space Dive, and it was really, really cool. To me, Space Dive is like Galaxy's Edge, but on steroids. Like, it's insane. Like, you are walking in, you are really in the environment. And I think one of the other great elements, which we can talk about it more, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the requirements is for you to wear a screen accurate or close to like a Star Wars costume, so then you can blend in with the environment.
Exactly. Yeah. This is, I mean, no, screen accurate, that's going to be up to your discretion.
Yeah.
But part of the immersion is that you, unlike going to Batu or going on like the Galactic Star Cruiser, where it was sort of like encouraged or optional, it is mandatory for Space Dive. It is part of the immersion. You are part of the event as much as we are part of the event putting it on for you. So if you do not have a costume, you do not get in. So that is a very important element. It's one of the 2 things besides buying a ticket that you need to do. Buy a ticket, you have to wear a costume.
Yep. Yeah. And the whole environment is so immersive. It's not just you walking around. There are things to do. I think one great thing is you guys have a sabacc tent, and you guys have a dealer there that is part of the galaxy. Like when you walk in and they're in character and they're having a good time. They were of when I went, there was a lot of hype in that tent, and I showed up as Chewbacca, and people were like, wait, what? And I just kept kind of messing with people and being like, oh, like, you should try and play those cards and stuff like that. And people were really into it. And I just love I just love how people are in character too. And that's the beauty of Star Wars is, to me, when I watched A New Hope, for the first time, my thing was, anyone can be a character, because every character in that cantina scene has a backstory. And that's the great thing about this is you're walking by, people have probably came up with their own backstory for their character, and it's just so cool. And speaking of the cantina, let's dive into that, because that is also one of the coolest elements as well.
Yeah, so the whole thing was based around building off of that cantina, and it first came about because we've got 2 primary key players in Space Dive. One is John, and the other one is Dan. And John is an artist, and he has been obsessed with the cantina since he can remember. And he's put those blueprints and like the layout of the cantina in his mind that he could draw it from scratch at any given time. And he sort of mapped it out in his head. And one day in the early 2000s, he was visiting the Tangent Gallery, which is where this is held. And he's looking at the forms and he's looking at the shape and looking around. He's like, wow, this is it. This has the right structure to be the Mos Eisley Cantina. And got talking with his friend Dan, who does a lot. Both of them work on immersive theater, and they came together and came up with this plan to build it out. It immediately followed them attending a May the 4th party that was slightly lackluster, and they feel like there's a lot of opportunities missed there. And they're like, you know what, this next year for May the 4th, let's build this cantina. Let's make this happen. So they spent a lot of time like pre-planning it. They had a little bit of grant money, and they put it towards building this space out to throw their own May the 4th party. And this was in 2015. And it has run every year since then. It's gotten bigger. It's been expanded upon, and it's a very pretty like accurate to like what you would expect when you walk into that.
Yeah.
Lighting to the shape, the form of everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I'm glad that some of us were able to get in there during the kind of kids hours, and we'll talk about that too. But that was cool because not that many people were there, so we had more time to like kind of like just absorb everything happening. And walking in that cantina, that was a hell of an experience. From the drinks you guys had to the ambiance, like just everything was just incredible. And I was just blown away by it because I've never seen anything like that in person. I think the closest thing is Galaxy's Edge, but that's its own thing. That's right. Its own thing, and this is its own thing as well. So as much as I compare it to it, you also really can't, because they're whole separate things, and they're just, yeah, like Space Dive is just incredible. And the amount of detail done, when I went, I think one thing I paid attention to was the walls and like the texture in it and everything. It was like, that's exactly like how it was. Like it like the amount of attention to the details is incredible, and the passion is there as well. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we've gotten down to color matching, from screen grabs and from production stills. The level of detail is dialed in. There are particular color matches that we perform so we can make sure that experience looks exactly like what you'd expect. And it's interesting you mentioned, like the correlation with Galaxy's Edge, because I know that there's a lot of people when they first come around the corner and see the Millennium Falcon for the first time, it's like this like almost religious experience where they're just like, oh my God, there it is. And your like heart kind of swells, you're kind of taken aback, you get a little, like you get inside your head a little internalized. I think there's people that feel that way when they walk inside our cantina at first too, oh wow, I literally just walked from out there to in here, and this is exactly what I thought it was. It's the experience you think it would be, and that's the level of detail that we've that has been expanding on for the last decade.
Yeah, no, you guys have crushed it. And again, last year was my first time, but I've heard the story of how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger each year. So from all that time, like how much has it changed, like since that first time that you guys actually, started doing a space dive? What was that first space dive experience like compared to now?
So that's a good question, and I'm not the best person to answer that because I've only been on board for like the last 3 years.
Okay.
But from what I understand, it started off with just that cantina, and it was very closed and very, very small. And we've slowly crept into the rest of the tangent gallery, expanding on different portions of that, theming out more and more space each year. So as far as a step-by-step, what was where each year, I'm not your guy to tell that story. But in the last couple of years, we've basically maximize the 10,000 square feet that we have on the indoors. And then we've added an additional over 10,000 square feet of immersive area on the exterior because we want to keep growing. And we also want to bring in new experiences and more space to play in. And I would say just as many people that hang out inside are hanging out outside, weather provide. Well, no, I've seen people hang out in the rain out there too. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. There's DJ spaces, dancing, there's a marketplace, there's vendors.
Yeah, the I thought the marketplace was super cool, and again, you're right. Like there is so much to do and so much to see, because we have talked a lot about the cantina, but we haven't talked about the Imperial side of things.
Mhm.
Because there's a whole area where it feels like you're walking through the hallway of a Star Destroyer or the Death Star. Can you talk more about that, of what that environment is like?
Yeah.
Because in that hall area there's also, like kind of like a concert venue. So yeah.
Right, right. So the story, how it works out in our head, like how that relationship of the spaces. There's the cantina, just like what you've seen in Mos Eisley's cantina. But we also know that there's sand troopers walking around out there. They didn't just fly down necessarily from the Star Destroyers above. We're assuming that there's always been some sort of Imperial presence that has existed in Tatooine, in all the Mos Eisleys and all those spaces. That there's somewhere where they are at. So the space is that the Imperial outpost sort of backs up directly against the cantina, and that the rebels have sort of carved away of space into the hangar, which is where the concert area is. That's
Yeah.
what we refer to as the hangar, and that there is that the Imperial space looks uh, a lot like a Star Destroyer interior. Now, is that for budgetary reasons that it would look identical, like that the Empire uses the same assets as far as like it's cheaper to build if you're building in mass, so we're trying to keep it familiar. So there's doors that look familiar, there's light panels, there's control panels that you can interact with, and great photo opportunities. And so there's distinctly like rebel space. There's just like scoundrel cantina space, and then there's tons of photographic opportunities as well for Imperial
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. And again, the amount of detail in it as well is so cool, because of you guys just don't have like the wall panels. Like you have your own type of doorways. There's also like a comm area as well. And it's done in such a beautiful way. And that will lead you outside, and if it's still placed like it was last year, right next to like the entryway where you would walk into like the hangar area, as we're talking about, there is a sabak tent. I want to talk about the sabak tent because that was done so cool. Because the entryway is small, and then you walk in, it's just this giant tent. Um, uh, what is that environment like for sabak?
So we ran Sabak 2 years ago in a
Yeah,
very small corner of near the cantina bar area, and it was kind of done as an experiment because we weren't sure if people would want to come to the event and sit down and play cards. We're like, this might be too lively for that, so it was a little bit of an experiment. And what happened was it went over so big that we had people waiting and so many lines, and that we're like, okay, we need to expand on this. We gotta sit more people. We have to have a better system. We got to change out dealers more frequently because we want people to come through and play. And so with that, we're like, we need a bigger space. And we were kind of out of interior space at the time to dedicate more to that. So they came up with this idea of a geodesic dome, and that there are plans like online for people to build like geodesic domes, and we kind of crafted and hand tailored it to our specifications, about how big it needed to be to harness all the space for players and people watching, and the dealer, and maybe an IG-11 that's watching over the whole game while it's
yeah,
going on. And that was all CNC cut, from wood, and it assembles in a large dome, and then we have a covering that allows some external light to pass through, and also shade you from what's actually who's winning and what's going on the inside. So it's a neat environment in and of itself. It's really pretty in there. There's something about like the amber lights that we have in there, and then the mercury vapor street lamps that are actually in Detroit that kind of shine through, so you get this really neat contrast of light.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, of just the environment of all that too was just incredible, and the fact that people are coming in dressed up as well, that also sets the tone for the Sabak games, and I love how much the dealers were into their characters and like just of playing the game with people coming on through. It was awesome to see. And then from there, you would kind of make your way over to the marketplace. But before that, there's kind of an outside concert venue. And what was really cool to see is that the Cantina band was there, but as a hologram. Let's talk about that, because that was also a super cool kind of detail to add. I loved I loved the hologram concept. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, so that space, I mentioned the two co-founders of this are John and Dan, and Dan is like a projection and media specialist, and that's kind of his brainchild of like coming up with that. There's not only just the like Cantina band like hollow projections, but there's also occasionally other characters that are within those hollow projections. So somebody who's maybe paying attention to that might see, you know, somebody who's wanted or a bounty or something like that. So there's things to pay attention to there if you're going through, because a big part of this is the immersive side. You're not just there to just hang out, but it is a space that you can, if you want to, play in, like in a way that doesn't necessarily involve like scanning QR codes and apps like Galaxy's Edge, but like people to interact with, and maybe there's side quests and missions that you can help out on, and some of those clues are hidden throughout the space, and we're kind of leaving it up to those who want to play can play, and if you don't want to play, it's perfectly fine, because that's it's any way you want to deal with it, that we're providing that 360 degree backdrop to how you want to play.
It's all about those details, man, and it's about the immersiveness. So I love that you guys are bringing that in. So from there you walk over and I don't remember the name of it, but it was kind of like a food stand, but it was done in a really, really cool way of where like, it's like out of Star Wars. So it's like this kind of circled venue. Let's talk about that. What kind of food do they normally serve over there? Because if you remember, I was talking to you last year, I wasn't able to get some just because of it was between like of the daytime stuff and the nighttime stuff, and then I had to get suited up as Chewie, so I wasn't able to go. But what kind of food do they normally serve at that stand?
So we have a new food vendor this year, and I haven't got a chance to taste any of the food yet. That's coming up, later this month, so I can report back later on that. But it's, of course, sort of outer space theme. Like think Galaxy's Edge, or like a very light end version of like what was on the Star Cruiser, where maybe it's some flavors that you might recognize, but you don't necessarily recognize the shape of what you were eating. So something that feels more in universe. Of course, they'll have listed what you're actually eating in there if you need to know for dietary restrictions and whatnot. But so we'll leave that open. But yes, there is food in the event. The line has potential to get very long. I know in the past, I literally, out of being there 5 days last year, I think I got to eat there once. But it can't, like, I'd recommend, like, come like with something in your belly to begin. But there's food there if you should you should get hungry.
Okay. And then, walking from there kind of straight on, you'll walk into the marketplace. and there's a lot of stuff to look at, a lot of stuff to buy. Let's talk about some of the vendors.
Yeah.
Huh?
So we have there's a few things going on in there. One, there's an outdoor bar. If you find that some of the indoor bars, there's multiple bars to get drinks at. The most popular one, of course, is the cantina, but it does get pretty thick in there.
Yes,
because everybody wants to drink at the cantina. But if you should find yourself that's too long, there's an outdoor bar immediately when you enter on your right. You should be able to get just about everything you can get inside out there. There is an area where you can exchange your terrestrial coins for our betting tokens for Sabak. So you might have to find somebody because they're a little bit cryptic about where they are. But if you're looking to play Sabak, all you got to do is hang out there, and I'm sure you'll probably find somebody who's willing to help you get into a high stakes game if you should want to. We have a couple of vendors that have returned each year. We've got Eric and his beautiful ceramics.
We love Eric.
Yes, so much. I love his stuff, and dang it, when he shows up, I can't help but buy like 2 or 3 more things from him each year. It's growing like pretty consistently, but he brings out a select amount of merchandise and what I'm understanding is there might even be exclusive Space Dive merchandise this year that's only at the event. So if you are if you're a fan of his ceramic ware and you want something that's exclusive, now don't hold me to that because I've only heard whispers of it, but that's what I'm hearing anyway. We have Jacob and his wife who run Harbinger Leather, and they make all kinds of costume accessories and leather goods, bags and satchels and pouches and purses and things of that nature, as well as last year they made vests, like a smuggler's vest. They made hats that were kind of reminiscent of like what an imperial deck officer might wear, like something like that, like in universe costume accessories. And so if you find yourself like feeling like your costume's a little bit bland, that's a potential space that you can drop by and accessorize a little bit further. And there's other surprises in there too. I don't want to give away too much in that area.
Okay.
If you're not really close by, if you find yourself, part of one thing that we do at Space Dive that's a little bit unique, you're not going to find it at any Disney theme parks, is where they might do a lightsaber building experience. We don't do lightsabers because we're mostly rebels, and so but there have been known for blaster battles to break out.
Yes, I was about to ask about that because I kind of knew about it going in, but I didn't know to like what extent. So let's definitely talk about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that you can bring your own blaster. We're talking Nerf blasters here. Don't bring any actual firearms.
Yes, please do not.
That's not cool. Everybody wants to go home safe and have fun, but there's been known to blaster battles to break out at any given moment, and some people show up and they find themselves unarmed. And I would say if you hang around the marketplace, you might see or get offered a chance to make a purchase of an illegal firearm of some kind that may they might be able to use to either get revenge or start your own rebellion for that matter. So that's an area I'd pay attention to. And there's other characters in there too. There's somebody who makes their own candies and confections, like space candies, if you will, for people with a sweet tooth. That's in the marketplace area. And there's even somebody, I don't want to offend by saying there might be a space witch, but that might be, some might refer to her as that. So there's different experiences that you can have in there, as well as um, there's like a minstrels outside, one man music acts, and there's lots of stuff happening in the marketplace. It's not just indoors. Like I know a lot of people crowd into, in particular, the cantina area, because it is sort of the central heart of the space. But there's plenty of things going on outside.
Yeah. The other thing I will say about the Nerf guns is, if you are wearing a costume, let's say if you weren't a stormtrooper, just to let you know, you will be shot at. Like, it's just like, you will have to get used to it. I remember when I was wearing Chewie and I was shooting down for the night, I remember I found like 2 or 3 Nerf gun like darts like in my fur that I had to pull out. So it's just something that happens. It's fun. Everyone is having a blast with it. So just make sure that you're so just make sure you have that you're comfortable knowing that fact going in. But
there you could get shot, but we're talking about things that ages 5 and up shoot each other with all the time. Hopefully nobody takes offense at taking it.
I mean, I like, there are people that have certain costumes that are like, I don't want something to get on it or whatever, but it's a Nerf gun dart. It's not gonna like fully damage it, so I really wouldn't worry about it. But I have seen people that have been like that. It was like, my stormtrooper kit came out fine. So
good. Yeah, I mean, that's a great warning to bring up. It's a party. People get sloppy. People spill drinks. So if you have like a very expensive costume that you dry clean only or whatever it is, maybe look at like how you can wear something else that you don't necessarily feel too offended if you end up it gets a little sloppy or gets a dart shot at it. There's plenty of things, and we do have part of because it is in around May 4th, the weather can get dip pretty cool, especially at night. So outdoors we do have fire pits and such like that, and I wouldn't recommend wearing anything that is combustible and then standing right next to a fire. So for your own safety, like exercise some common sense if you're wearing plastic or whatever it is that you're made out of.
And that kind of is segueing into what I of the next topic, which was what is encouraged and what's not encouraged for a space dive, like for like costume wise, like just go ahead.
No, that's a great question. No one's asked me that thus far. So encouraged, it's really make it your own. We're not looking for any main characters, so I wouldn't like immediately log on to Amazon and start trying to put together a Darth Vader costume off of what you could find on there or Temu or wherever. We're not looking for Darth Vader. We're looking for you to sort of look past the main characters on the screen and start paying attention to who's in the background, because that is you. That is that, and that's all of us as well. You will see some recognizable Imperial forces, and that's just by nature of like, there's many stormtroopers, there's many biker scouts, maybe a couple of deck officers, but you're not going to see too many people by name at Space Dive. So if you're going to play, feel free to come up with your own thing. If there's aliens, we love when people show up in makeup and Twi'leks and any alien that you're willing to portray. Now I understand there's restrictions and that it becomes hard to wear some of these things for a long period. So keep your comfort in mind. But any sort of smuggler, any sort of like person that you would have seen on like Ferrex, for example, come out and give us like those like unsung heroes of the rebellion.
Yeah.
That's what we love. We love seeing that, especially aliens. We love the aliens the most.
I got a feeling from just the people that that you and I know, I got a feeling we're gonna see some aliens, like more aliens than we saw last year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of at Grand Rapids Comic-Con last year, that was really cool. Of where we had Chewie, we had a Rodian, we had a Bith, we had Snaggletooth, we had a Greedo, like we had like a lot of aliens, and I know more people that are working on them, like of just people like in our community, but there could be other people that we don't even know about yet that will probably show up like wearing that. And Space Dive is the place to do it. Like going into the cantina, that's what you want. That's what that cantina scene is like known for. It's for the crazy aliens and people in there.
Right. So, anything from the Wolfman to the devil to an astronaut, like and everything in between. If you and I'm glad you have the URL up on the screen right now. And for anybody listening, it's spacedive313.com. Check out the picture gallery. You're gonna see some images of like aliens and people. They're actual people who attended. They're not photoshopped in or anything like that.
Right.
These are people who come and what they look like in the space that we're building. Other dues. This is something I keep forgetting to say, because it's a night run event for the most part. We also do something during the day, and we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, but it's doors are at 7 p.m. and it runs to 2 a.m. And because it's at night and there's a lot of outdoor space at night, something that's really cool is whenever I see anybody add some sort of light source to their costume. And I think that there's something that, like, when you see photos with somebody, even just with a simple like blinking little greebly in their costume, man, they just pop out of the darkness. And I know a lot of people like they want to play like a Sith or something like that, and like don all the black robes and stuff. All I gotta say is you're gonna disappear. Like, think like, how would I be seen? If you want to like be noticed, like wearing those dark colors don't always benefit you at night. And if you are, I guess feel free to do whatever you want to do. Just my recommendation is either add something that provides like a splash of light, or something where you're not just a floating head in the darkness. It certainly looks better. And then as far as like don'ts, this is kind of just my recommendation. I think, when people think of Star Wars, they immediately, their brain goes to like, well, you're either a Jedi or a bounty hunter, or you're Han Solo, you're Darth Maul, you're Princess Leia, and it's like they have these archetypes. And that's fine. If you want to come in your Jedi robes, so be it. In our world, we tend to think that a lot of those Jedis maybe got executed by Order 66, and maybe there aren't as many floating around as possible.
Right. Or at least out in the open. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're going to want to hide it. Be a Jedi in disguise. People bring lightsabers. That is a neat light source. One thing that we don't particularly like, and we've had in the past, is some people come out and they have choreographed an entire lightsaber routine and decide to perform that. That's kind of like not sanctioned by us, where people, because it can, for one, people can get hurt just by randomly walking into people swinging lightsabers. It's sort of it's frowned upon, for the most part. If you want to bring them out, like in the terms of like Mos Eisley, where people are, using them to like a giant glow stick when a band's playing, that's fine. We're all for that. But don't come out and take over an entire space to do a 10-minute choreographed lightsaber.
Yeah.
And if you do happen to be doing that, there's a chance that all of a sudden all that blaster fire is going to be directed at you, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, but I know someone. I know some people it might have been. because they're not so sure about the space wizard showing up and doing.
You have a friend that knows a friend that knows a friend that saw something that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Something else that we haven't talked about, and this actually kind of involves me, is the life-size A-wing. That is there as well. I was part of a fan film that came out a couple of years back called Star Wars the Dark Crystal, and that was a fan film that came out by our friends Gary and Dark Hoffman, and it's there, like it's in its full glory. It's so cool to have like a life-size ship there too, and I think you guys have a life-size speeder bike there too, right?
Yeah, we have a couple of items like that. Some of them are from either people like in your case of the A-wing, it was from a fan film, and I believe they purchased it after the fan film was complete. Now, what we found out pretty much right away is that we had to rebuild the whole thing, and we understand that like it's because it was built for a couple of shots in a fan film, and it gets trailered in Detroit, to and from the location, so we had to start over and build an entire steel frame. And just about every single panel has been replaced, repainted. We did the engines last year, and I know there was something unique about that. It was a prototype A-wing, if I'm not mistaken, like in the fan film, where it had like the cockpit canopy of like an X-wing, like kind of merged into it. We just replaced the canopy last year with an actual F-16 flight canopy to get it closer to the shape of an actual A-wing, like as we know them. Right. Yeah. So that's gone over a major overhaul each year. But we love having those. We have quite a few full-size prop pieces that were used in fan films here and there that people used, and then like, now what do we do with this? And some of them are donated to us. Some of them we get, we work out a deal where we can pick it up from them on the cheaper and give it a good home and new life. And that's a really cool part of Space Dive 2, is being able to get up on top of these things and walk around them and lean against it, where in other cases at some theme parks there's going to be barriers. They're going to keep you from touching or interfacing with that. I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this in years. This is great. And of just seeing it in person and stuff. And ironically, Dark and Gary were standing right in front of it, and I was like, this is such a surreal moment because I haven't seen them since the fan film. So that was pretty cool. And then you guys have a life-size moisture evaporator as well. And we have several, I believe. We have 4 or 5 that are on there.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, they're quite tall.
Yeah, they are very, very cool. The other thing I love as well, which I don't know if you guys will do this again this year, but you guys have spread out these pit droids just kind of like across the entire area, and they're kind of like Easter eggs. Like, you really got to look up and like kind of search places to find them. So that was pretty cool, because I just remember a couple of us were taking a picture in front of the moisture evaporator, and I didn't know later, but there was like a pit droid that was hanging off like the side of it, and it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. So
we reward people who come on multiple nights, because much like Elf on a Shelf, they move around from night to night, different spaces.
That is so cool. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Space Dive, guys, is such an incredible experience. The environment is great. The people involved, they're just amazing and so passionate about what they're doing, and it shows. It definitely shows. For like every time that you go in, like, people are just excited to be there and working and having a good time. Speaking of, I wanted to talk about the bands that play there as well, because there is live music. Yeah.
Yes, there's not only live music and bands. There's solo artists, like I mentioned before, that you can find in the marketplace that are performing out there. There are burlesque dancers, so you're getting something slightly more than you're definitely not going to see at a Disney theme park. There are it could be contortionists, it could be different suspension acts that happen.
Okay.
You're getting multiple DJs performing in different locations, and it's different each night too. We don't repeat from one night to another, so the entertainment is different on different nights. Now sometimes we'll have like a band play 2 nights or something like that, but it's never if you showed up on Friday, your experience on Friday is not going to be the same as your experience on Saturday as far as the performances are involved.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I just remember walking through the hangar each time, and there ended up being like a new band there, and I was like, wait, whoa. I was like, whoa. So again, just the whole environment is super cool. And I think adding those additions to it as well, like, helps with the environment and stuff like that, and kind of adds character to it as well, because you've got this hangar which is kind of abandoned, and then you have these people that have taken over, so it's super cool that have that element. There is the other room which we haven't talked about yet, but it's kind of like on the other side of the cantina, and then just right next to the hangar. Would you say that room is kind of like the kind of quiet, relaxing room of?
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted like a little bit of chill out space, because there are spaces in there that are pretty intense, pretty loud. In that space, you're getting kind of a virtual sunset on like Tatooine, like that kind of like experience. And there's some screens, there's some ambient visuals that are playing in there, and then there's also what we're referred to as the Space Dive fan film. What is I'm trying to find the word for it. It is sorry.
You're okay.
Space Dive Film Fest. That's what I'm
okay.
looking for. I had it in my notes here, but I'm like, what are we calling that? Anyway, it is and it's on a loop, so it continues, and different things play at different times. But there's a selection of anything from old Kenner toy commercials.
Yeah.
Did you see some of those or no?
Yes. Of the whole room, have you been to the sci-fi dine-in that they have over at Hollywood Studios over at Disney?
No, I haven't.
So in there they would show this like just these old kind of sci-fi horror films from like the 1930s and 40s, and then you were at a restaurant where it was like, a drive-in theater, but it was a restaurant, and they had this giant screen, and this reminded me of it. But to me, it's like it's so cool. It's because it's Star Wars, but also it's done like in a really cool way, because you got the new stuff, you've got like old, kind of like Kenner action figure commercials that probably people haven't seen in a long time. So I just loved that kind of aspect of it. And also you have in that room, there is a lot of different ambiance as well, because it feels like it's in its own thing. And then you have Han Solo and Carbonite, if I recall.
Yeah, I think he's hanging out in there. But maybe it might sort of date the experience of like where it's happening at. But in that besides, I don't want to say it's just a loop of like toy commercials happening, because it's also fan made shorts, not unlike what you were in, weird bootleg film cuts, because there's so many in the in the late 70s, early 80s, or all these like foreign marketplaces were all trying to make their own version of Star Wars. And there's like a hot cut of like like some of the surreal visuals and like people trying to make their own like Star Wars type films like happening. So it's kind of fun. It's definitely a kickback and relaxed space within it where you can take your drink and sit down
Yeah.
and enjoy that space. But all the
Yeah.
spaces are there to explore too. I would say, like, yeah, there's certainly things to be found and people to meet in different spaces, like going through there. But that's a good area to, if you're looking to dial it back for yourself, or things feel too intense, that's nice crack, like kind of a low key space.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, to kind of move forward, what new things can we expect from Space Dive this year for people that have gone before?
So for the oh yeah.
Yeah.
So for people that have gone before, we're always continuing to craft the space and make it more immersive, add additional things to explore, meet new people, go on side quests. If you've never tried to do that before, it might be a good time to attempt that. But for the most part, there's not, we're kind of maxed out on space in there. We're working with just shy of 25,000 square feet, which,
Yeah.
it can sound like a lot or a little depending on like where you're coming from. But really it's dialing in all those details and like really making this a 360-degree photographic opportunity. So when you're there in your costume, it doesn't matter what angle you're being shot from. We want there to be a detailed space that you fit right into, and that everything that you know about the area kind of disappears, and you are in like a different environment altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great way to hype people up. And the dates for Space Dive are May 4th and 5th, right?
Nope. This year.
Nope. Sorry, I'm getting the dates wrong. Sorry.
So this year we always touch May 4th, because this was always a celebration of May the 4th in Detroit here. So we always touched May 4th in one way or another. So this year we're doing May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, since the 4th falls on a Sunday.
Yep.
And then we're also picking up for Friday and Saturday the next weekend, which is the 9th and the 10th. So 5 opportunities to come out and play. I've heard people coming. May the 4th is always our busiest day. It doesn't matter what day of the week.
Yeah.
People come to play hard.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. It's one of my favorite days, hands down. Fridays tend to be slightly more chill. Saturdays are amped up a bit more.
That's so cool. Yeah. I think I went the second week of Space Dive, and even though it wasn't on Star Wars Day, like it still was like, whoa. Like, I mean, because of when, like, no joke, as soon as you park your land speeder and you like actually like walk over and you step through that entrance, you are there. You are at Space Dive. And that's the other cool thing is you guys have condensed the area to where you really can't see the outside world. And that adds to the immersiveness, and you guys crush that. So I love that aspect as well. So yeah, Space Dive is really, really, really sick, guys. How much would it cost for someone to go to Space Dive?
So we have we've got different prices. There's going to be early bird specials, but you're going to want to pay attention to our social media. Again, it's spacedive313.com for the website. You can find us at spacedive313 on all of the major social medias, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook. Find us on Facebook. And I believe we're on TikTok, although I don't seem to have access to that one, but we're on there. So we'll be like, I would say starting at the beginning of next month, which would be, like early March, you're going to want to really pay attention as close as you can, because there will be discounted tickets, very limited amounts. So that's your opportunity to get them at a cheaper price. You can, after that limited block goes, the regular tickets will also be for sale on the website. There is limited amount of tickets that are sold on the website, because we also want to hold back a certain percentage. It's not much held back, but we want to have them also available at the site for people who just decide to show up on the day of. And so I believe our pricing is $50 on Fridays. Saturdays are $60. And I believe both of those go up at the door slightly from there, but I don't have exact prices in front of me. But I believe that's what you can expect to pay for tickets. I highly suggest you buy them online. Make sure you get it secured. You'll get the confirmation right there. You'll be good to go. And I think for the amount of entertainment and what you get out of the space, I think personally it's a very good bargain. Considering everything that goes into it. I know what goes into it. So
no, I agree with that. I think the price is good. I think you are getting exactly what you pay for. The experience alone is something that will carry with you onto your next Star Wars journey that you do, because you'll look back and be like, wow, I was there. I was walking and you had a bunch of stormtroopers that just walked past me, and it was like, wait, what the heck? So this experience is one of the most immersive Star Wars experiences that you'll probably ever get besides Galaxy's Edge. Like, there's nothing really like it, and you guys captured lightning in a bottle. This is amazing. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is like, looking back at it, like how long we've been at this, that we've predated things like Secret Cinema in London. We predate even the announcement of Galaxy's Edge. The announcement of it, we were doing this before then. Certainly before the Galactic Star Cruiser, and even before Scum and Villainy in LA. That we've been doing this for that long. That we're pretty proud of the fact that we were kind of the first to try this out. I'm not saying that we paved the way, because we've been doing this just for our own sake, because we love this stuff. We love Star Wars, and we love like this experience. But it's nice to look back and go, wow, we were actually ahead of things for once. Like people think of Detroit being like slow and burnt down and like kind of behind on the times and whatever. But like actually, in some ways, we're slightly ahead of things.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, Space Dive is incredible. Grab your friends, grab your favorite scruffy looking Nerf herder, and head out to Space Dive. I'm telling you what, guys, it is such an incredible experience. If you wear a really cool costume to like blend in with the environment, do it. If you want to do an alien, do it. Because in a way, you are part of Space Dive. When you walk in, you will be interacting with people, and it's such a really cool way to like capture your fandom, and to like kind of express it. And Space Dive is one of those places, so definitely check it out. Do you guys have a release date of when maybe tickets might go on sale, or no?
I would. I don't have the direct date in front of me, but they are going on sale in very early March. So you're going to want to pay attention if you're, especially if you're trying to get the early bird tickets. They do go super fast. Sign up. And then also on social media, we're going to have opportunities for ticket giveaways by some people. Colin and I might know personally. Might be, if you post up like your best photo of you in your costume, some of the costume judges, they're pretty good at costuming, and they know what they like, and all you got to do is follow us and follow them, and you could win free tickets, for any one of the nights. So a lot of Michigan cosplayer and Star Wars Star Wars cosplayers out there who will be helping out with ticket giveaways.
Yeah, yep. So this is happening in the Detroit, Michigan area. Would you say
In
it's
Detroit.
like in the
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, no guys, seriously. If you haven't gone, check it out. It's so much fun. I think that's really it. I feel like we could talk more about Space Dive, just about like our personal stories, but do you have like a favorite experience that you personally have had at Space Dive?
Oh wow, that is a huge question for me.
Sorry.
It's holy cow. Well, I mean, one thing that's really cool for me, and I guess I kind of bounced off the topic. So during the days on Saturdays only, so we have 2 Saturdays. We're going to have May the 3rd this year and May 9th. We give an opportunity to, because the event at night is 21 plus, we give an opportunity during the day from, I believe, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., where people can bring their kids down so they can experience it too.
Yeah,
we'll run little blaster battles for the kids. There's costume contests for the kids where they can win boxes full of credits. They can play sabacc just like the adults. But we're really putting it on for the kids. And one fun thing for me, although I mentioned like there's not really any Jedi down there, for the kids, I will put on my General Kenobi costume and come down and play against the kids. And last year, there was the littlest Darth Maul there. And he was so excited to play play off of me. And it was like the greatest.
Oh no.
But it's coming out of this like pint-sized Darth Maul. And I had such a riot, like seeing him and playing off of him, and it's fun. Now, no General Kenobi for me at night. I'm going to be blended in somewhere else, and you'll have to figure out where I'm at. And but I do enjoy that. It's part of the reason why I do Rebel Legion, the 501st and stuff like that, because I love to play along with people in that respect. That's how I got to know Colin. For the audience out there, where his Anakin to my Obi. So
yes, you actually haven't seen me in person wear my Clone Wars Anakin yet, so we're definitely gonna have to make time and do that this year.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a definite photo shoot we got to do at Grand Rapids with a certain photographer. Hands down, I've been wanting to do this for a while, so we'll make that happen for sure. I have a different experience each night on there. I love to play against people who are willing to lean in. I occasionally will stand up near the front or go work the line and talk with people. We do encourage, if your costume's really good, we will, before we open, we do end up having somewhat of a long line outside. If there might be characters that come up and down that pull you forward. If we like your costume, we'll get you in early. Just that's our reward to you for putting in the effort. So that's kind of fun to play back and forth with people in that way. But I just love the vibe. Everybody's there having a good time. It's the celebration that happens in my head canon. It's what happens at the end of Return of the Jedi. The second Death Star exploded. Yeah. There's a party on every planet in the galaxy, and this is one of them. This is exactly what it's like.
I love that. Yeah. Because I think one of my favorite experiences was, for the most part, I was wearing Chewie for like that whole night, and people just kind of looking up and being like, wait, what? And there was this one guy, he was just kind of walking through. He was dressed up as Han Solo. He was just kind of walking through being like, oh, okay, well, this is cool. And he sees me and we're in the cantina. You see a big smile on his face. He doesn't hesitate. He walks up, he gives me a hug. And then him and I are hanging out like at the cantina, just like kind of being part of the environment. People are walking up, and I just saw that his whole night was made of just everything happening. And you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what a type of experiences that you're going to have. And these memories are going to stay with you because for the most part, I would think if you're going to space dive, you're a big Star Wars fan. So these memories are going to stay with you, especially if you watch the movies and be like, oh yeah, I remember the time of space dive. I was over at the cantina, and then there was an alien that walked by, and it was so cool. So it's like, you don't know what kind of experiences that you're going to have here. And space dive is something that I, will always cherish or going to for the first time, because I had no idea what to expect. I've just heard from different people. I've heard from you. I've heard from Don. But talking about it is one thing. Experiencing it is a whole other thing. Because as much as we are talking about it and giving it justice, I don't think we're it's going to be the same when people walk through. It's going to be so much better than how we're describing it, because of just seeing it for the first time is amazing, and it's such a cool experience.
And it rewards people coming back too. It's not just, you're not going to have the same experience twice, because the crowd changes, the vibe changes, the bands change, the DJs change, the costumes change, and I gotta say, Colin, you probably know more about Star Wars than anybody else I know.
Oh no,
okay, more than me. We'll say more than me. I'm impressed with your general knowledge and how you're able to crush all these rare trivia questions that can come out of nowhere. And so to hear you beam about this makes my heart 3 times as big.
That's awesome.
To know that what we're doing is taking someone who has a fandom level that you have and makes them beam. So to me, that's worth it. And so anybody who has slightly less of a fandom than you do is going to, if I can impress the biggest Star Wars fans, then that's the goal. That made my day. That's my best experience.
The other thing as well, and now that I'm getting into fatherhood here in a couple of months, I feel like if I was a kid and I experienced, space dive during those kind of kid hours that you guys have during the day, I think I would have been my fandom would have been more enhanced of just experiencing something like this, of watching it and then be like, hey, check out what we're doing this weekend. And then you just go and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's a giant spaceship. What's going on here? And I really hope that I can take my kid one day and just kind of experience that with my son and just, show, because of the other message I take from space dive is, if you truly care about something, you make time for it and you put in the effort, and what you come up with, you can absolutely create if you put your mind to it. And that's exactly what you guys did. So I can't wait to see what the future of space dive holds. I feel like there's a lot of a lot of untapped potential there. And I think you guys are just getting started, even though you've been doing it for over 10 years. I feel like there's so much more.
And I really hope your son holds off long enough for you to come to space dive. Because I know that's kind of contingent with the due date, but here's hoping that he stays in that cozy space indoors for just a little bit longer.
Or he comes early, because if he comes before May, I would be content too. Because of his due date is on May 14th. So
no, here I am a father, so I've been through this before. Once that kid comes, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. I know you're going to be a good dad, and you're not gonna leave the missus there.
No, I won't.
So we're gonna lose you for a bit, but so that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping he holds on a little bit longer and gives you the first weekend at least to play with, if not the second as well.
Exactly. There you go. So from myself and Kevin, thank you so much for listening to our deep dive into space dive. There we go. I did some puns there. And look forward to tickets going on sale soon. And hopefully we'll see you in May. Thank you so much for everyone listening live, and we'll talk to you soon. For myself and Kevin, may the force be with you always.